Chaos in Los Angeles. Stores looted, cars burnt to a crisp, and American flags torched. Anarchists and dirt bikes are waving Mexican flags around LA while the city's engulfed in flames. And they love this country so much that they're waving the flag. So why do they hate the idea of being sent back? This doesn't look like assimilation. This looks like what it is, an invasion. This all started Friday afternoon. ICE agents were assisting a federal drug and money laundering raid in downtown LA, when all of a sudden, dozens of protesters showed up and clashed with officers on the scene. The mayor of Los Angeles didn't stop it. She told LAPD to stand down for hours and hung federal agents out to dry. Karen Bass told Trump, "Keep your hands off my Biden migrants."
We are going to fight for all Angelenos, regardless of when they got here, whether they have papers or not. We are a city of immigrants, and this impacts hundreds of thousands of Angelenos.
While rioters were raising hell, Democrats chose sides.
I step out of LA so that order can be restored.
If they're escalating their tactics, then so are we. When they show up, we gotta show up even stronger.
By Saturday morning, cop cars were getting pelted with rocks, and officers had to start deploying tear gas. The media told us, don't worry, the protests are mostly peaceful.
Most of the crowds, again, that I saw, that I spoke to, that I was interacting with, these are peaceful people that want to get their message across.
Most of those demonstrators were very...
Hey, welcome into Crazy Media. Thanks so much for joining me. I am here on vacation, but I absolutely wanted to jump on and talk about this nonsense that is going on in LA. This is absolutely crazy. But we have got the mayor of LA and the governor of California 100% rolling over for what are clear now to be planned protests. These are not organic. It's not a rising out of a simple ICE raid that just put everybody on edge. No, these were planned from the get-go. They were waiting for ICE to show up in LA or somewhere in California and begin to enforce the law and begin to enforce Trump's mass deportations so that they could absolutely do this. This was the plan all along. We're going to show you that as we walk through several videos. But welcome in, everybody. Donnie Newman, thanks so much for joining me here at Crazy Media. Really appreciate you showing up. This is a major story. This, I think, could be there have been so many turning points in this fledgling Trump presidency. He's been absolutely nuts. From the 100% lawfare against him to what's happening to the attempt to use his tariff policy as a wedge to drive between him and his supporters, to paint everything as an inflationary problem. That obviously failed because the economy is beginning to boom. It's beginning to roar. Inflation's down. Wages are up. So they needed another wedge issue. And they've been waging lawfare against all of the ICE deportations up until now. Now they have taken the next step. Now they have decided that with Trump winning over and over and over again, and what it very much looks like he's going to win at the Supreme Court level when it finally gets to deciding some of these cases on the merits, that he will have the presidential authority to deport all of these people. They have decided to take it to the next level. And we are finding out now that it is not going to work. The Democrats are destroying themselves. They have once again ended up on the 20% side of an 80-20 issue. And in this case, it's more like a 90-10 issue. But we're going to walk through all this. Thanks so much, everybody, for rolling up. Stephen Garrett in the house. Midway Farms in the house. Really appreciate everybody being here. All right, let's dive into some of this as we've got, I think this is going to be the downfall of the Democrat Party. That's my prediction. I could be wrong, but that's what it's looking like right now. And we've got even some tape to prove or to justify that, as we've got Dems breaking with other Democrats on this issue. So let's dive right in. And pardon me here because it's a little bit more difficult here on vacation. I don't have all the setup. All right, here we go.
Get down! Get down!
Oh! He got fucked.
Oh! Fuck yeah!
being pelted by cinder blocks and bricks from overpasses, destroying their vehicles and injuring them. This is crazy.
God, he got fucked. Oh, he's fucked. Gotcha, bitch!
Absolutely nuts what is going on in LA right now. Absolutely 100% crazy town. And that's because, as you saw in that Jesse Waters report, Mayor Bass and Gavin Newsom behind her basically rolled over for the protesters. They said, oh yeah, do whatever you want, because they're all in for the criminal illegal aliens. They're all in for illegal aliens in general and also for the criminal illegal aliens. They don't care, but the American people do. And so we've got all sorts of different reports of just how not peaceful these peaceful protests are. And you can begin to see here, let me see if this is pulled up. You can begin to see here, we got a series of images where these protests were not just organic. They weren't just people showing up in some weird flash mob. No, they were planned. They were organized. They were scripted. You've got the whole, Antifa, Hamas headscarf going on. These are not, Black trans lives. They're an amalgamation of all of the communist, Marxist elements in the country come together. We're finding out now that a lot of these people were bussed in. These are that they were brought in intentionally. Elements just like in J6 and just like in the Summer of Love riots following George Floyd, they were bussed in. They were brought in. They're paid agitators from Antifa and other places. And now check this out, because here's a report from Chicago Ray talking about the fact that these were pre-planned. These were pre-set up. They knew what was going to happen, and they pre-set up these raids. Here you got cinder blocks being delivered to key intersections, according to Chicago Ray. This is in advance of protests where police were going to be involved in anti-riot situations. This is the same thing, remember, that happened in the Summer of Love riots. We found out later that pallets of bricks were delivered to key intersections in the city. They knew what would happen. They were giving the protesters tools in order to wage riots, not just peaceful protests, but actual riots. Now check this out from Benny Johnson.
Describe where.
All right. Check this out from Benny Johnson.
It just feels like something's going to happen, and you're waiting for it to happen. And you can look around, you see the National Guard in front of the federal building, but as far as this intersection where we're seeing all this take place, there's no local police to be seen.
Yeah.
And we have people handing out masks and gas masks, and we just saw people graffitiing the side.
Think of that. People handing out masks and gas masks. There's other reports of other riot type masks being handed out, delivered to protesters. This is not something that somebody just thought up on the fly. It's not, hey, let's go out because we're angry about ICE. This was, we are waiting for ICE to show up in one of a few key cities, LA being one of them, where they had a base of Antifa and BLM and communist elements that they could then utilize as an army of useful idiots to go out and actually riot, not protest, not stand with a bunch of picket signs and say, we want our immigrants down with ICE. No, these are violent riots. People are now being charged, according to Bondi, with arson, attempted murder, and other crimes. This is how serious.
I'd walk right in front of this truck, and we've seen people doing burnouts in the street, and there's no local law enforcement around.
Let us clarify, because we've been showing a wide shot and from a different angle, a whole lot of officers on the other side of the federal building, almost behind you, and perhaps the visual is obstructed from your point of view. But I can tell you there are many, many, many LAPD cars and officers there that have staged. They are blocking that freeway overpass, so protesters can't get on that overpass like they did yesterday and throw bricks or concrete or scooters down on law enforcement that was below that had cleared the 101 freeway. So perhaps they're not where you are, but there's a lot of them already positioned there. They're not getting caught off guard by a crowd gathered here.
So, I mean, that was quite a shot that we have there of these folks, and your photographer just gave us a great shot of the box that was left behind, which showed the brand of mask. I mean, it's not the kind of thing, thank you for seeing this there. It looks like a bionic shield is what that's called. I mean, that's not the kind of thing that you buy in bulk if you don't plan on doing something with it. And the fact that that's being handed out kind of like candy to everybody.
No, bionic shields are not something you readily come by. They're not something easily found. They're not something, ooh, hey, let's go pick it up at Walmart. This is absolute nonsense. This is pre-planned, absolute crazy town riots. And this is happening because they were planned. And the idea that they were at all peaceful is just 100% nonsense. And the fact that they were essentially, by default, egged on by Mayor Bass and Gavin Newsom, as Trump calls him, Gavin Newsom, is 100% true. And Donnie Newman, you are correct. They're paid agitators, and they're trying to do this nationwide on the 14th. I think this is mostly going to fizzle. But here's some of the reasons why. I want to dive in. I want to show you some more images of what is going on in this absolute crazy environment here in LA. Check this out.
The law. They don't have to cooperate. Well, now you have the law being applied. And honestly, I think in the initial stuff that was done, this was ICE going after people that were on felony warrants that had done things that are really, really bad. And yet they're out there burning things down, massive looting last night. I'm seeing these stores being looted.
So, as we said, Mayor Bass basically told the police to stand down. She gave the rioters free rein to go out and do whatever they wanted, with the police essentially told to do nothing. That initial 2-day period is what allowed then all of the mass to supplement the paid agitators and drive this into a complete riot. Now, this would very easily have become another summer of love. However, Donald Trump was having none of this nonsense. We're going to get into that. But first, the fact that this is absolutely breaking the Democrats. The Democrats are once again on the wrong side of an 80-20 issue. And that's, like I keep saying, I think this is a 90-10 issue. They are absolutely on the wrong side of this. Check this out.
The Democrats, Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman condemning the violent anti-ICE protests in LA, posting on X, quote, "I unapologetically stand for free speech, peaceful demonstrations, and immigration, but this is not that. This is anarchy and true chaos. My party loses the moral high ground when we refuse to condemn setting cars on fire, destroying buildings, and assaulting law enforcement."
But House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries trying to pass blame onto the Republicans.
The Department of Homeland Security, under the leadership of the so-called Secretary Kristi Noem, is a complete and total embarrassment. And so anything that they put out should be scrutinized through that lens.
Nonetheless, is that something that you would agree with?
I've made my statement on this issue.
Here to react, Fox News contributor Joe Concha. Joe, your number one job as an elected official is public safety. That's it. Every other issue is a far distant second. So why can't all Democrats, especially their so-called leader, Hakeem Jeffries, say what Fetterman said right there?
John Fetterman, again, being the voice of reason in the Democratic Party.
John Fetterman being the voice of reason. The reason they won't say it, everybody knows, is because they are on the side. They are 100% in with the rioters, the communists, the Antifa. They are for the illegal immigrants. They are for the criminal migrants. They are for the murderers, the assaulters, everybody else. There's certain words I can't say on YouTube. Begins with an R, but everybody knows what it is. They are all for these people because they answer to a different master. They are not beholden to their constituents. Hakeem Jeffries in his ridiculous New York district, they're not beholden to them or to America in general or to American citizens. They answer to a different master, and that is the globalist cabal of corruptocrats that want to destroy America. And hence, Hakeem Jeffries wants to destroy America. You are seeing a little bit of reason from Fetterman. However many times I may disagree with him, he has become the lone voice of reason in the Democrat Party. And he's absolutely right. This is anarchy. The whole country can see it. You can look and watch. All you have to do is watch your TV, listen to a Democrat say, this is a mostly peaceful protest. It is not mostly anything except violent. It is anti-American. It is absolutely violent. You've got criminal illegals running around waving the Mexican flag, burning the American flag, and then demanding to not be deported to Mexico. Bye-bye. America is done. They're fed up. They're over it. And so is President Trump. And hence, we've got a different response and reaction than we did in the summer of love. Check this out.
President Trump ordering more than 2,000 National Guard troops to L.A. as violent anti-ICE protesters burn cars, throw rocks, and smash windows for 2 straight days, threatening the lives of police and ICE agents. The rioters protesting the arrest of more than 100 migrants in L.A., including suspects accused of child abuse and sex assault charges. And here in New York City,
ICE goes in to arrest criminal illegals accused of murder and child abuse and sexual assault. And this is the response that they get? No. This wasn't just your bread and butter, a few people out protesting ICE. This was planned riots. They wanted to recreate the George Floyd situation, but it's not going to happen. Why? Because Trump is sending in the National Guard.
at least 20 protesters are detained after storming ICE headquarters in Lower Manhattan. Fox News contributor and retired NYPD Inspector Paul Morrow joins us now. Great to see you this morning, Paul. So how much more complicated is all of this because Democrat politicians in these sanctuary cities are not cooperating with ICE and helping them do their job?
Well, enormously so, for all of the obvious reasons. And you don't have to look any further than the instance that we had with the Wisconsin judge, where you had an illegal accused of a serious assault, domestic, and the ICE agents did everything they could to tamp things down, to do things professionally, didn't go into the courtroom, waited in the hallway. It should have been a simple handoff. And I should mention that grabbing fugitives in that manner is not uncommon in law enforcement. And yet they bumped into an ideologue who wanted to adhere to this sanctuary city doctrine so vociferously that she interfered.
Yeah, and so here it is. Here's a little bit more on, because here's Kristi Noem speaking from the Oval Office, talking about the fact that Trump has not only sent in the National Guard, but he's also sent in the Marines. They're having none of it.
Incredibly proud of the president for activating the National Guard and for sending in these Marines, because these Marines are specifically trained to meet the need that we have on the ground in LA right now. And Governor Newsom has done a disservice to the state of California for many years. The people there should never elect him into a leadership position ever again.
The governor's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. When it comes to his railroad that he's building, where it's like 30 times over budget, nobody's ever seen anything like it.
Now, I will disagree with Trump on this one aspect, and it's just Trump's personality. Trump always likes to praise people and then say they're incompetent. Frankly, Gavin Newsom is getting exactly what he wants. Gavin Newsom is a Marxist. He's a communist. He's an anti-American fraud. He's getting exactly what he is designing. Trump's being nice. That's my only disagreement. He's absolutely right. He's incompetent, but he's purposefully incompetent.
Now it doesn't even go to San Francisco and LA. It's way short of it. After years of work and overruns like nobody's, those contractors are some of the wealthiest people in the world. I guarantee you that, because that money goes to those contractors. They just did a number on the wallet of the people of California. That train, you should look at that train. That is the greatest. I've never seen cost overruns. I've seen cost overruns and great incompetence over my life. I've never seen anything like that.
So Trump has sent in the National Guard, 2,000 National Guard, and now 700 Marines. And what has that effectively accomplished? Well, here it is. The results are already starting to roll in. According to Rob Hogue from Red State, the LA riots are fizzling as Trump applies overwhelming force. They have essentially been able to start boxing in huge groups of rioters and arrest them. They are bringing in buses, huge buses to essentially paddy wagon all the arrestees to detainment facilities. Trump is not going to let this get out of control. And as a result, his poll numbers are now in the mid-50s. The most recent poll shows Trump at 54% approval rating, which is absolutely amazing. We've never, we've seen numbers like that, but it is really, really crazy. So here we are. I just want to show you this last here because the American people 100% agree with what Trump is doing here. Check this out. Let me pull this up. Sorry about that. Here we go.
Donald Trump's approval rating is 53% net plus 7 today. That's essentially where it was the first week of this term. And so how would the press frame that? They would say, oh, worst honeymoon in presidential polling history or something like that. Well, I think people knew what Trump was going to bring to the fight, and he is. So I think this presidency is just all business, right? But
100% all business. Americans want the criminal illegals gone. Trump is delivering on that. And the Democrats, by aligning themselves with the criminal illegals, with the Marxists, the communists, and the rioters, as Fetterman said, are absolutely going to destroy themselves. The media has already destroyed itself. MSNBC is in the tank. CNN is in the tank. Their ratings are cratering. Nobody believes them anymore. Nobody watches them anymore. And now the entire Democrat Party, for the most part, obviously Fetterman is an exception. There's a couple other exceptions. We got more reports of state senators and all abandoning the Democrat Party. They are done with this nonsense because the American people are done with it. Hey, really appreciate everybody rolling up. Thanks so much for all your comments. That's right, Mark. You're correct. You must have. Rasmussen is the best pollster out there. He is 100%. He's the most accurate that I've seen. And part of it is because he's not paid by anybody except for results. He's paid to be accurate. And Donnie Newsom, you're right. By saying Gavin Newsom is a nice guy, he's not talking about his personality. He's talking about, yeah, he's a nice guy, but he's a grossly incompetent fool. Gavin is a lizard. Look at his neck. All right, you guys are awesome. Hey, thanks so much for showing up again. I'm here on vacation. We're at camp with the kids, but these LA riots I think are the next pivotal moment in the Donald Trump presidency. This is going to swing his approval 100%, not 100%, but he is fully over 50 now. The American people are fully behind him in this fight against the criminal illegals. The courts are going to come down on his side, I fully believe. When it finally gets to the Supreme Court, they are going to validate his presidential authority to do this, and then he'll have a green light. And with the polls behind him, with the courts behind him, the next big thing is the passage of the big beautiful bill, which I have some disagreements with, but the deregulation and the tax cuts inherent in that are going to put gasoline on the economy, and we are going to see a roaring economy going into the midterms. I think this could be the end, as we know it, of the Democrat Party. But thanks so much for rolling up. Really appreciate everybody being here. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And most importantly, share Courageous Media with everybody that you know.